The Great Deception. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the HSS Whisper, watching the massive Galactic Council station rotate slowly against the star-filled void. Her ship, along with 4 others, comprised humanity's entire diplomatic fleet, or so the galaxy believed. The vessels appeared unremarkable, their gunmetal gray hulls deliberately designed to look outdated compared to the gleaming alien ships surrounding them. Visual confirmation of our arrival logged by 37 alien vessels, reported Lieutenant James Nakamura from the sensor station. Their scans show us exactly as intended: primitive fusion drives, basic shielding, minimal armament. Sarah smiled grimly. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Earth had spent decades perfecting this deception, understanding that in a galaxy where first impressions determined political hierarchy, appearing weak could be humanity's greatest strength. The Whisper was the largest of their 5 ships, stretching barely 300 meters from bow to stern. Around them, crystalline Vorthan destroyers sparkled like floating diamonds, each one a kilometer long. The bioorganic Cellen cruisers pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, their living hulls constantly shifting shape. Most impressive were the Korvax Dominion dreadnoughts, massive geometric fortresses bristling with visible weapon arrays that made human vessels look like tugboats beside battleships. "Incoming transmission from the Council," announced Communications Officer Elena Rodriguez. "They're directing us to Docking Bay 94. The bridge fell silent. Bay 94 was in the station's outer rim, reserved for minor species and provisional members. It was an insult, but an expected one. "Acknowledge the transmission," Sarah ordered. "Helm, take us in nice and slow. Let them think our engines can't manage anything better." The 5 human ships limped toward their assigned berths, their engines producing exaggerated spurts of conventional thrust. Sarah knew that dozens of alien sensors were analyzing every aspect of their approach, cataloging humanity's apparent technological limitations. 3 hours later, Sarah led the human diplomatic team through the station's vast corridors. Ambassador David Morrison walked beside her, his weathered face calm despite the obvious snubs they encountered. Alien delegates swept past in elaborate environmental suits and ornate robes, many pausing to stare at the humans' simple gray uniforms. The council chamber itself was a testament to alien architectural prowess. A spherical room 300 meters in diameter, with gravity fields allowing delegates to occupy every surface. The major powers occupied prominent positions near the chamber's equator, while humanity was assigned a small platform near the polar regions, barely visible to most attendees. Supreme Executor Vectel of the Korvax Dominion called the session to order. The arthropod alien's chitinous form towered 4 meters tall, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights in prismatic patterns. When he spoke, his translated voice resonated with absolute authority. "The 3rd Cycle Assembly of the Galactic Council now convenes. We welcome the provisional member species, including the recently contacted humans of Sol System." His tone carried barely concealed condescension. "Today's primary agenda concerns the expansion rights in the Outer Rim territories." Sarah observed the alien representatives as negotiations began. The Vorthans postured aggressively, their crystalline bodies flashing in complex patterns. The Cellen delegates communicated through biochemical signals that required specialized translators. The Thracian Empire's warriors stood at attention, their powered armor humming with restrained energy. All of them radiated confidence, secure in their technological superiority. Ambassador Morrison presented humanity's modest requests with careful diplomacy: mining rights to a few asteroids, trade agreements for basic resources, permission to establish research stations in unclaimed systems. The major powers barely acknowledged these proposals, too focused on dividing the real prizes among themselves. During a break in proceedings, Sarah overheard a conversation between 2 Korvax officers. "5 ships," one scoffed, his mandibles clicking in amusement. Their entire species managed 5 primitive vessels for the most important gathering in the galaxy. "The Vorthans were right to oppose their provisional membership," the other replied. These humans barely qualify as spacefaring. They'll be absorbed by a proper power within a decade. Sarah maintained her neutral expression, but internally she smiled. Every dismissive comment, every condescending glance, played perfectly into Earth's strategy. Let them think humanity posed no threat. Let them believe humans were barely worth noticing. The session continued for 6 hours, with major powers carving up resource-rich systems while throwing occasional scraps to lesser species. Humanity received mining rights to 3 asteroids in systems nobody else wanted, a negligible victory that reinforced their image as beggars at the galactic table. As the assembly prepared to adjourn, an urgent message interrupted proceedings. A Vorthan admiral materialized on the central platform, her crystalline form pulsing with agitation. Executor Vectel, we have a situation in Sector 7G. Long-range sensors detect an unidentified force moving toward the Helix Nebula. The region borders territories claimed by 16 species, including the human systems. The chamber buzzed with sudden interest. Sector 7G contained the Zephyr colonies, mineral-rich worlds that had been disputed for centuries. The mysterious force's appearance could destabilize the entire region. Deploy probe networks, Vectel commanded. All fleets maintain current positions until we assess the threat level. Supreme Executor, the Vorthan admiral continued. Preliminary data suggests the unknowns are heading directly for the human colonies. Their defensive capabilities are limited. Sarah felt hundreds of eyes turn toward the human delegation. Ambassador Morrison stood slowly, his voice steady. We appreciate the Council's concern. However, Earth will defend its territories with all available resources. Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Thracian warlord, General Krax, stepped forward. His species were renowned warriors who viewed combat as the highest form of art. 5 ships, he rumbled, his scaled features twisted in amusement. You would face an unknown force with 5 obsolete vessels. The Thracian Empire offers our protection, for a reasonable price. Your colonies would make excellent forward bases for our fleet. Other powers quickly joined the feeding frenzy, each offering protection in exchange for territory, resources, or effective vassalage. The message was clear. Humanity couldn't possibly defend itself and would need to accept subordination to survive. Morrison glanced at Sarah, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. The ambassador's voice carried quiet determination when he spoke. Earth declines all offers. We will handle this situation ourselves. The laughter grew louder. Executor Vectel's compound eyes glittered with contempt. The Council cannot permit member species to commit suicide through prideful stupidity. I hereby invoke Article 27, Protective Intervention. The Korvax Dominion will assume defensive control of human space until this crisis passes. Article 27 had been used throughout history to legally annex weaker species territories during emergencies. It was conquest disguised as benevolence, and every being in the chamber knew it. Earth formally protests this decision, Morrison stated. Protest noted and dismissed, Vectel replied coldly. Our fleet will enter your space within 30 cycles. Any resistance will be considered hostility against the Council itself. As the session ended and delegates filed out, Sarah caught fragments of conversation. Humans will learn their place. 5 ships against a Dominion battle group. Should have accepted vassalage while they had the chance. Back aboard the Whisper, Sarah convened with her fellow captains via secure quantum link. Captain Robert Hayes of the Ghost spoke first. They took the bait completely. Korvax ships are already mobilizing from 3 sectors. And the unknown force? Asked Captain Maria Alvarez of the Shadow. Sarah pulled up tactical displays. Long-range intel confirms it's the Exarethi swarm, approximately 200 vessels. They'd been testing borders throughout the Outer Rim, looking for weak points. The Korvax expect us to roll over when their protection fleet arrives, observed Captain Lying of the Echo. They'll position their forces between us and the Exarethi, then claim our colonies as payment for their defense. Exactly. Sarah's smile was sharp. They see 5 small ships and assume that's all we have. They've forgotten the first rule of warfare. Never underestimate an opponent based on what they choose to show you. Commander Nakamura looked up from his console. Ma'am, encrypted burst transmission from Earth. Operation Revelation is authorized. All limitations lifted. Sarah felt the familiar pre-battle tension settle over her. For 3 years, humanity had played the part of the naive newcomer, carefully hiding their true capabilities. Every condescending laugh, every dismissive comment had reinforced the deception. Now, as hostile forces converged on human space, it was time to show the galaxy why Earth's military doctrine emphasized misdirection over displays of strength. Signal all ships, Sarah commanded. Phase 1 begins in 20 hours. Let the Korvax arrive first. We want a full audience when the curtain falls. As her crew prepared for what was coming, Sarah returned to the viewport. The alien ships around the station continued their elegant displays of power, secure in their superiority. In 20 hours, that security would shatter. The sleeping giant was about to wake, and the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their ships. It was their ability to turn the enemy's assumptions into weapons against them. The revelation. 20 hours later, the Korvax Dominion's Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human territory. Admiral Korthak commanded from the bridge of the dreadnought Supremacy's Fist, watching with satisfaction as his battle group assembled. 47 ships arranged themselves in perfect formation, enough firepower to conquer small empires. Scanning human defensive positions, reported his tactical officer. Confirmed 5 vessels maintaining standard patrol patterns around their primary colony. Korthak's mandibles clicked in amusement. The humans hadn't even attempted to consolidate their laughable fleet. Their ships continued individual patrols, apparently unaware of the Korvax arrival. Broadcast on all frequencies, Korthak ordered. Let them understand their new reality. His message echoed across human space. By authority of the Galactic Council and Article 27, the Korvax Dominion assumes protective control of this sector. Human vessels will power down weapons and accept escort to internment. Compliance brings mercy. Resistance brings annihilation. On the bridge of the Whisper, Commander Chen listened to the ultimatum with her officers. The main display showed the Korvax fleet in all its mighty, kilometer-long dreadnoughts, sleek cruisers, and scores of escort frigates. They brought enough firepower to crack a moon. Nakamura observed. They really think we're that helpless. Their tactical analysis is logical, Chen replied. 5 small ships with apparent primitive technology against a full battle fleet. From their perspective, this isn't even a fight. It's a police action. Admiral Korthak waited for the inevitable surrender. Instead, he received a brief response from the Whisper. Korvax fleet, this is Commander Chen. You are trespassing in sovereign human space. You have 5 minutes to withdraw. The bridge erupted in harsh laughter. Korthak's compound eyes glittered with anticipation. These humans would provide entertainment before their inevitable submission. Target their lead ship, he commanded. A demonstration shot across their bow should teach them proper respect. The Supremacy's Fist charged its main weapon, a particle cannon capable of splitting asteroids. The massive barrel swiveled toward the tiny Whisper. Chen watched the energy build up on her sensors. All ships, execute Revelation Protocol. Phase 1. Engage. What happened next would be dissected by military analysts across the galaxy for centuries. The 5 human ships shimmered, and suddenly weren't where they appeared to be. The Korvax particle beam lanced through empty space as the Whisper materialized 600 kilometers from its original position. Spatial distortion detected, shrieked a Korvax sensor operator. The human ships, they're using some kind of dimensional shift technology. Before Korthak could process this information, alarms screamed across his bridge. Massive energy surge. Unknown signatures emerging from hyperspace. Space itself seemed to ripple around the human colony world. Dozens of previously invisible satellites activated, projecting a planetary shield that materialized like a soap bubble around the Earth settlement. But that was only the beginning. From hyperspace emerged humanity's true fleet. First came the frigates, sleek predators that slid from dimensional folds like sharks rising from deep water. 20, 50, 100 vessels, each one a masterpiece of hidden technology. Their hulls weren't the primitive gray the aliens expected, but adaptive metamaterials that shifted between visible and invisible spectrums. The destroyers followed, angular vessels bristling with weapon pods that defied conventional design. Each ship deployed swarms of combat drones that moved with perfect coordination, creating a defensive web around the human positions. Then came the cruisers, the battleships, and finally, emerging from a massive hyperspace rift, the true pride of Earth's fleet, the dreadnought Terra's Resolve. It was a ship that shouldn't exist, according to everything the galaxy knew about human technology. 2 kilometers of seamless, organic-looking hull that seemed to breathe with internal power. Weapon arrays that folded in and out of reality itself. Drive systems that bent space around them like water around a stone. Commander Chen opened a channel to the stunned Korvax fleet. Admiral Korthak, you now face the Earth Defense Fleet's 3rd Armada. We are 5 ships, 5 command vessels coordinating 373 combat platforms. Your 5 minutes are up. On the Galactic Council station, emergency sessions convened as military observers scrambled to understand what they were witnessing. The sensor data made no sense. Human ships were demonstrating technologies that seemed to violate known physics. Executor Vectal watched the tactical displays with growing horror. Phased shielding, quantum tunnel weapons, inertialess drives. How did they hide this level of advancement? The Vorthan Science Advisor's crystalline form flickered with distress. Supreme Executor, their power signatures, they're using controlled singularity reactors. We've only theorized such technology. In human space, Admiral Korthak faced a terrible choice. His fleet still outnumbered the humans, but their technology advantage had evaporated. Worse, the Exarethi swarm was approaching rapidly, drawn by the hyperspace disturbances. Formation Theta 7, he commanded. All ships prepare for combat. We'll teach these deceptive primates the cost of humiliating the Dominion. The battle began with a massive Korvax barrage. Particle beams, antimatter warheads, and gravitic disruptors filled space with devastating energies. The human response shattered their understanding of warfare. Human ships didn't just dodge. They phased through different dimensional layers, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Their point defense systems created probability fields that caused incoming missiles to exist in quantum superposition, detonating harmlessly in alternate realities. When the humans returned fire, they unveiled weapons the galaxy had never imagined. The destroyer Poltergeist fired a temporal shear cannon that aged sections of a Korvax cruiser by thousands of years in seconds, causing half the ship to crumble to ancient dust, while the other half remained pristine. The battleship Revenant deployed gravity lances that created microscopic black holes inside enemy shields, collapsing them from within. Fighter squadrons used quantum entanglement communications for instantaneous coordination, moving like a single organism across the battlefield. But humanity's greatest surprise was yet to come. As the Exarethi swarm arrived, 200 biomechanical monstrosities intent on consuming both fleets. Commander Chen transmitted on all frequencies. Attention all vessels. The Exarethi pose a threat to every species in this sector. Earth offers a temporary ceasefire to address this common enemy. Admiral Korthak, despite your unprovoked aggression, we extend this offer to you as well. The Korvax Admiral, his fleet already damaged and facing a two-front battle, had no choice but to agree. What followed changed galactic perceptions forever. Human tactical networks linked with both fleets, creating a coordinated defense that multiplied their effectiveness. Earth's quantum computing systems processed battlefield data at impossible speeds, directing Allied ships with perfect efficiency. The frigate Wraith demonstrated humanity's electronic warfare capabilities, infiltrating Xerathi bionetworks and turning their own ships against each other. The cruiser Phantom deployed nanoscale weapons that dissolved enemy hulls at the molecular level. But the decisive moment came when the Terra's resolve revealed its primary weapon, a directed wormhole generator. The massive dreadnought opened a temporary Einstein-Rosen bridge in the heart of the Xerathi formation, with the exit point located inside the nearest star. Half that Xerathi fleet was instantly consumed by stellar plasma before they could adapt. The survivors scattered, their hive mind temporarily shattered by the unprecedented tactic. As the combined fleet mopped up the remaining Xerathi, transmissions poured in from across the galaxy. The primitive humans had just demonstrated military capabilities that surpassed many established powers. In the aftermath, Admiral Korthak found himself requesting permission to board the Whisper for formal negotiations. As he stood in the human ship's conference room, facing Commander Chen, his 4 arms gestured in the Korvax symbol of respect. "Why?" he asked simply. "Why hide such power? Why allow us to mock you?" Chen smiled slightly. "On Earth, we have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. The galaxy judges species by their displays of strength. We chose to be judged by our actions instead. You could have dominated the Council, demanded prime territory, exclusive trade rights, and made every species fear us," Chen completed. "Tell me, Admiral, before today, did the Korvax consider humanity a threat?" "No," Korthak admitted. "We saw you as insignificant." "Exactly. We've had 3 years of peaceful development while the major powers ignored us. 3 years to build our infrastructure, study galactic politics, and prepare for moments like this." Chen gestured to the tactical displays showing the aftermath of the battle. "Now the galaxy knows we can defend ourselves, but we've also shown we prefer cooperation to conquest. Which reputation would you rather have?" The implications were staggering. Humanity had played the longest game, accepting mockery and condescension, while secretly preparing for every contingency. They hadn't just hidden their military might. They'd hidden an entire philosophy of strategic patience. At the next Galactic Council Assembly, the atmosphere was transformed. Human representatives were relocated to the primary ring, their input suddenly valued in every discussion. Species that had laughed at the tiny fleet now spoke carefully, wondering what other surprises humanity might have hidden. Executor Vectel formally welcomed Earth as a full council member, his compound eyes betraying newfound wariness. "The galaxy has learned much about humanity today. Perhaps you could share what drives your species to such elaborate preparations." Ambassador Morrison stood, no longer ignored or dismissed. "Humans have a unique perspective, Supreme Executor. We're a young species who reached the stars by learning from every mistake, every failure. We studied the history of first contacts throughout the galaxy. Too often, technological displays led to immediate conflict, the strong attacking the weak, or the weak uniting against the strong." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We chose a different path. By appearing harmless, we avoided triggering defensive alliances against us. By demonstrating restraint even when attacked, we showed that our strength comes with wisdom. Earth seeks partners, not subjects." The Vorthan delegate's crystalline form pulsed with curiosity. "But surely you've limited your influence by hiding your capabilities for so long." "Have we?" Morrison smiled. "In 3 years, we've established colonies without opposition, studied every major species without suspicion, and built a fleet without sparking an arms race. Today we defended our space, saved Korvax lives, and stopped a Xerathi incursion, all without firing the first shot. I'd say our influence is exactly where we want it." As the assembly continued, a new dynamic emerged. Species began approaching human delegates for defense treaties, trade agreements, and technological exchanges. But these overtures came with respect, not condescension. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their ability to choose when to reveal it. Commander Chen watched the proceedings from the Whispers Bridge, now orbiting the station openly. Her communications officer approached with a message. "Ma'am, we're receiving numerous requests for military advisors. Apparently, everyone wants to understand human strategic doctrine." Chen laughed softly. "Tell them we'd be happy to share, once they learn not to judge by appearances." She turned back to the view screen, where human ships now mingled freely with the greatest vessels in known space. The tiny fleet that had been mocked was gone, replaced by a force that commanded respect through demonstrated capability and restraint. The galaxy had learned an ancient human truth. It's not the size of the fleet that matters, but the wisdom of those who command it. And sometimes, the most powerful strategy is letting others believe you're weak, until the moment you choose to be strong. As the Exarathi retreated to their distant territories, and the Korvax began negotiating mutual defense treaties, Earth's patient gambit reached its conclusion. Humanity had earned their place among the stars not through conquest or intimidation, but through the most human trait of all, the ability to turn perceived weakness into unexpected strength. The tiny fleet was tiny no more, but more importantly, it never had been.